And I'm joined now by William Hildebrandt with the international press.
Morning, Shona. So let's begin with a great piece in The Independent that says, is Britain still spying where even the U.S. fears to tread? Basically, a U.S. embassy in Berlin, there was discovered to be a U.S. spy nest on top of it. And a German broadcaster was able to discover, we can see on these images, these fluorescent images on the photograph, a heat map in infrared after it emerged that the U.S. had bugged Chancellor Angela Merkel's phone. The activity in the spy nest dropped off. Now, despite that, the Independent has learned that there could possibly be a spy nest at the British embassy, and the British authorities aren't stopping their activity. This hasn't been confirmed, but the Independent saw documents that said a few people are operating undercover at the British embassy, and that most of their colleagues don't even know their true mission.
Now, governments have faced backlash on surveillance claims in the UK and the United States.
That's right. So let's start by taking a look at a cartoon in the International New York Times. It says, we're not going to spy on our friends anymore. Actually, we don't have friends anymore. So the U.S., the U.K., these countries are under pressure because of the surveillance claims. U.S. states, though, are trying to take the power into their own hands. They're not waiting on the White House, on the Congress to come up with any comprehensive surveillance policy, and state lawmakers now want to try to find a solution themselves. More than 10 states have already passed 24 privacy laws this year alone in hopes of trying to find a way to quell concerns from the public about surveillance.
And moving to Iran now, thousands of hardliners rallied at the former U.S. embassy to commemorate the 1979 U.S. hostage crisis.
That's right. Now, we've seen anti-American sentiments before in Iran, and people chanted death to America and burned U.S. flags here. But this is striking because at this moment, Iran is trying to mend ties with the U.S. over its nuclear program. So this underscores the challenges between hardliners and moderates within the country. The Wall Street Journal has a piece called Iran's Worrisome Shipping News, and they say this could actually throw in talks into jeopardy. In September, sanctions were overturned against the country's shipping lines for a lack of evidence, saying it was linked to Iran's nuclear program. Now, EU governments want to reimpose those sanctions, but those could jeopardize talks that begin Thursday, a second round of talks with world powers and Iran in Geneva over nuclear energy.
Right. Now, those talks should not be confused with the Geneva II talks, which is the international effort to end the Syrian war.
That's right. So an editorial in the Gulf News says Geneva II is a damp squib. But what's the alternative? It reads that the international community should stop taking sides. No side in the Syrian conflict has clean hands. So basically, there's been some concerns that maybe Bashar al-Assad could get out of here, wash his dirty hands clean of any wrongdoing. But the editorial proposes the U.S. and Russia should persuade Syrian President Bashar al-Assad that his time is up to help form a transitional government and then move on to ridding the country of extremists and armed militias. Now, if we look at a cartoon, this paper's cartoon shows the U.S. has taken a beating for its handling of the Syrian crisis throughout the region, also the world, I might add. But it's a tricky project for the U.S. and the Russia to try to come together and get Geneva to move forward to find a solution.
John Kerry trying to patch things up there best he can.
Right.
Finally, on Tuesday, India begins its journey to Mars. It hopes to become the first Asian country to reach the red planet, but its attempt has drawn criticism.
That's right. It used to be the U.S. against the Soviets, said one Indian commentator. Now it's India against China. The Guardian has a story about Mars. India reaches for the stars in space race with China. The 300-day, 7,800 million kilometer journey has cost $70 million. And as you said, there are critics. They say the government's ambitions should be more grounded. For instance, Britain's given India more than $460 million of aid per year, yet 40% of children are malnourished and half the population have no toilets. The endeavor has also made some Indians think their government's head is in the clouds.
Well, thank you for that, Will Hildebrandt, with the International Press Review. More coming up in focus. Russia's annual Day of Unity parade revives ethnic tensions. Ultranationalist groups took to the streets on Monday to denounce illegal immigration, especially from former Soviet states. Coming up.